Okay, so good afternoon. Welcome to the Personal Development Workshop. This is session one of three sessions, all 2 hours each, pretty much. We're going to do some content, then a breakout, and we'll have some chats and discussions as we go along. There's going to be some homework in between, as per usual. I know Samantha's particularly looking forward to the homework. So I'll get that sent out after the event. I'll send the slides out, and we're recording, so I'll send out the copy of the video and notes and that sort of thing. Any questions, put them into the chat, and we'll go into the breakout sessions in about half an hour. So to kick off, personal development, favorite subject of mine, and it's sort of the basis of a lot of the work that I do, but the basis of a lot of our lives and our businesses, really, because our businesses, our lives, our careers are a reflection of us, for good or for bad. So if I look at somebody and look at where they are in life or business and work and whatever it is, it's just a consequence of the decisions they've made and a reflection of their experience to date. And one of the key things that I've sort of learned on my journey is that surprisingly, we're all primed. Priming is a key driver for us. So when we're born, we come into this world knowing nothing, not understanding anything particularly, and then we learn things, but actually it's knowledge and education, but we're being primed, we're being guided to think in a certain way, respond in a certain way, and react in a certain way as well. And this priming comes through from parents, society, education, family, society in overall, social media, the media, news channels, TV, all this sort of thing. And we are really consequences of our priming. And the question is, of course, this is a bit more philosophical, too deep for this training, I guess, is do we have freedom of choice? To what level of freedom of choice do we have? Because we are making decisions based on our experience, understanding, and knowledge, but also we're on our priming. And it's very, very powerful. Priming is one of the most powerful things that affects us. And so when we're looking at achievement and success, two things we've got to do. One is to recognize how we've been primed to give ourselves these beliefs, limiting beliefs or empowering beliefs, whichever it is, but how are we making decisions? What choices are we making? And if we want to make a different choice, then we maybe have to unravel some of the priming that we've been experiencing. For me, for example, I have a fear of heights. I don't do heights at all. And the reason I don't like heights is I wasn't born with a fear of heights. My dad, I was getting into the loft, the attic at the house when I was only about 4 or 5 years old, and the ladder's a step ladder, an apex step ladder, and there was a gap between the top of the ladder and the hatch into the loft, into the loft area, and I had to climb up, hold on, and Dad was going to lift me up into the hole by going into a mid-air. Anyway, he got hold of my hands and lifted me, but he dropped me, not intentionally. I don't think it was intentional, I'm not sure. Didn't land on my head, it's okay. But he dropped me only about sort of, 6 to 8 feet, maybe a couple of 3 meters maybe. And I sort of crashed on the floor on a big heap. And it was that experience, that priming that gave me a fear of heights. So we're not born with any fears. We're born with maybe or arguably 2 or 3 fears. One is the fear of falling down, falling over. You can try this with toddlers and small children. In fact, don't try this. But if you push a child over, they will reach out in front of themselves, and it's a cognitive test as well they do on youngsters, to protect themselves. So this fear of falling over, automatic response. Arguably, we have a fear of loud noises. We don't like loud bangs and crashes, that type of thing. We tend to have a fear around that. And we seem to have a fear of abandonment. We don't like to be solitary and alone, or as we call it now, lockdown through the COVID session. So somebody's chatting to me now. It's going to make it even more interesting. I've got to read chats as well now, crikey, while I'm talking. Okay. Landing on Headwood. Thanks, Kev. I knew that you would participate in this. I do. I love you. So we have these fears. Anything else we have fears about, or uncertainties, or limiting beliefs, whatever it is, they are learned or given to us or primed. So we are given a script. We're given a movie screenplay when we're born, and it's developed over maybe the first 15, 16 years of our life. We are the star, the lead actor in this movie, if you like, in this screenplay, but we're not the directors. We're not the producers. We don't look after the sound or the lighting or the extras or anything like that. We are just given this movie role, this screenplay that is our life. Now, sometimes that works out really well. And for most of us, for all of us on this call, I think, knowing you as I do, it's worked out really well because we're all here together. Life is good and we're all okay. However, if you want to get a different outcome or achieve something that's off the script, off the screenplay, you have to start choosing a different director, take control yourself, a different producer, bring in a different set of extras, the people you associate with, and you can write your own movie script. Now, the reason we don't do that, of course, is because we're comfortable in our movie that we've been primed to have. So what I'm going to talk about in the first session is really how do we recognize priming? Where does it come from? How do we recognize it? And what sort of things can we do to unravel it to a certain extent, such that we are primed to make different decisions, bigger, better choices, and get a better result, because our life reflects us. So if we want to get a better result in life or business, it doesn't just happen. We've got to start with ourselves, which comes down to our priming. So part of my story, and we've all got one, and I know everybody on here, I know you guys reasonably well, you've all got a fabulous story, but this is a little part of mine, how I was primed and how the priming was broken. So this is a picture of my grandfather's or great-grandfather's shop. And it's got my name above the shop because that was his name. My great-grandfather's David Holland. And this was taken in, I think it was 1908. It's a sepia print now. It's a big picture on the wall at my mom's house. So the big guy in the middle is my great-grandfather. On the right-hand side, over his left shoulder at the back, is my grandfather. And then the two lads in the front are sort of shop boys over there helping out and that sort of thing. There's a family business, a family firm. I'm not in this. Before Aaron chips in, I am not in this photograph. I am not that old, so thank you, just before I remind you. So we had family shops, that was it, family businesses, shops all over the UK, well, West Midlands, Coventry, over towards Leicester, Birmingham, and up in all over that sort of West Midlands area. So going through school, my job when I was a kid, when I was about 4 or 5 years old, I would be in the shop on Saturday mornings, sweeping up, stacking the apples, stacking the oranges. I'd go in the truck to market at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning with my dad, go to the markets, pick all the produce up, go and deliver all the produce to all the shops at the back of the truck, and then he dropped me off at school at sort of 8:30 in the morning. So my life was shops from the age of 4 or 5 onwards. So I assumed that I would be inheriting the, I am sure, Aaron, thank you. Not certain, but sure. So my life became around shops, and I assumed I was going to inherit the business. My role was going to be, as it was for my dad and his dad and that sort of thing, go into the shops, into the business. So at school, of course, if you're going to inherit a business, if you're going to go into a big business, it was quite a big business back then, how hard would you try at school? Well, not very well, not very much. So I didn't do a lot at school, particularly. I went, but didn't do a lot. At the age of 14, my dad turned around to me and said, this business is not going to sustain you. You've got to go and get yourself a job, get some training. I was only 14 when he told me this. And of course, I only had 12 months left for school. I left school at 15 with a couple of bits of paper, but that was all it was. And so my priming was shattered. My priming was broken because my belief was, my mindset was, my assumption was I was going to go into the family firm, and that was taken away from me. Now, when something's taken away, when we break the priming, if you like, break the conditioning or break the pattern, it feels very, very uncomfortable because it's uncertain, high risk. We don't know what's going to happen next. What do we do? We don't know what's going to happen. And it's very, very disconcerting. So I was upset and nervous. Anyway, I went into an apprenticeship and engineering, all this sort of thing. Anyway, if I look back, because I didn't go into the shop, forced me to make a change. It forced me to go and do something totally different that I wouldn't have done had I stayed in the shop. Now, if I'd have stayed in the shop, I think it would have crashed and burned because we were getting screwed by the big box guys, the big supermarkets and Carrefour coming into the UK, Tesco's growing. We would not have survived. So I would have had to change anyway. It was forced on me. It felt uncomfortable. So if you look at your life, I'm sure many of you had this, where you had a path down which you were going that felt okay. Then something comes comes along and goes smack and knocks you off and breaks this priming, this understanding, and then you make a different decision. But what happens in hindsight is the consequence of that is actually very, very positive. It doesn't feel like it is at the time. So breaking patterns, breaking priming feels uncomfortable. We avoid it unless we're pressurized into it. But actually, it's a very good thing. Most of this, in my career, I've had several of these big shifts, and some have been imposed, some I've learned to choose them as well. Every time I've done it, it's been a positive thing, and it's enabled us to end up here doing what we do with you guys, and in hindsight, it all sort of makes sense. So we have this priming, and then what we're told is if we don't have it's not get shattered, but part of our priming is that when we leave school or college or university, whatever it is, we're told to go into the world. And what happens is we're told you go into the world with a torch, a lamp, a flashlight. And we're told to go and look for things, look for jobs, look for homes, look for partners, look for cars, look for stuff, look for shiny things. But the place we're in is a big, dangerous warehouse, big, dark, dangerous warehouse. And what we realize is in that warehouse, there's lots of other people doing the same thing because that warehouse is based on scarcity. The global economy is based on scarcity of resources, scarcity of money, scarcity of assets, and debt. That's the way the economy is based. So we're conditioned and primed to go hunting with our little torch into this dark warehouse looking for boxes of gold or opportunities or jobs. Then we're told if you want to get a bigger torch, a bigger, brighter light to go and find bigger, brighter things, go to university, go and get then you get two torches then you go and get bigger lamps, you can find more stuff. But actually it doesn't break the cycle. We're still in a dark, crowded warehouse looking for scarce resources, and we have a bigger torch than anybody else has got, but we begin to realize it's not serving us. On the outside of this warehouse, on the edge of the warehouse, there is a door, several doors, on the outside of which is bright light and sunshine. Now, we walk past this door every day on our way to work, on our commutes, or it might be people we meet in the restaurants or opportunities come along. This door is there in front of us all the time, but we don't recognize it as a door. We don't see it as a door or as an opportunity because it's scary. It's not what we're conditioned to think about. We're conditioned to think scarcity, hunting for little bright shiny things in boxes, wandering around with other people. And then we hear some mythical stories about these other people, these mythical beings almost, that are outside of our frame of reference, and they have happiness and success and achievement and balance and money and relationships and all these amazing things, and they sit in the sunlight on the other side of this door. But we still don't go through it. We don't go through the door because it's locked. We lock it for ourselves, and we lock it based on our beliefs that we are not good enough. We are not ready yet. We are not rich enough. We're not tall enough. We're not good looking enough. Whatever it is, we have these excuses, these reasons that sound very, very logical that means we don't go near the door. So my challenge for you guys is to consider the priming, as we've all done, and where these opportunities come from, and how do you get to the point where you open the door and walk through. You take that risk of doing something different and you go into the sunlight where the opportunities arise. So what keeps the door secured is us. The door isn't actually locked. The door's not, it's not secured. There's no latch on it. There's no padlock on it. We choose to lock it. We choose to keep it closed because we don't think we're ready, or we're not worthy, or whatever it is, or it's dangerous and risky, and we don't want to take that sort of risk. But that's just our priming and conditioning, because that's the way we've been taught to think in the area of scarce resources and global macroeconomics. Actually, before I started this webinar, I looked up, just out of interest, and this is not an economics training at all, but global debt. What's the global debt? And there's a global debt clock. And you can look at it, and this global debt is cranking through, and it depends where you look, but it's something like, I think it's about 100 trillion now dollars of debt in the world. It also, just interesting, it calculates the interest accruing on that debt. Every minute, there's $4 million interest accruing on the debt. And this is how we've been conditioned to think, because that's scarcity and debt and all this sort of thing. So that's how we're being conditioned. Now, I'm not suggesting you can go through the door and the debt disappears, but we've got to stop thinking in terms of scarcity and limitations and limiting beliefs. And I had a conversation with a sort of colleague of mine over in the UK, who some people on the call will know. It doesn't matter who he is. I'm not going to mention his name, but he's independently wealthy, very successful, and traveled the world, and he's got property investments all over the world. And he's a colleague of mine now, which is really good. And I was talking to him, and I said, look, when you're on your journey to do all this that you've done, what limiting beliefs did you have to overcome to enable you to become this successful? And he looked at me and he just said, what's a limiting belief? I don't get it. I don't get it. Now, when I look at his background, he had a very unusual background. He hadn't gone through all the priming that maybe I've gone through, maybe some of you guys have gone through as well. He hadn't been conditioned to the same level as maybe some of us. So he went through a different education system, and very, very bright and intelligent, but not a traditional route. And so he wasn't quite conditioned that way. Now we've been through, and a lot of people on the call here have been through a lot of education, which is a good thing. It's great. Now, if you just replace the word education with priming, maybe it's getting you've got to think slightly differently, because this education and conditioning means we don't think in a particularly open and creative way. So it's challenging those beliefs, opening that door, putting the torch down and walking out into the sunshine is the real key. So people don't do what they are told to do. We don't do what we're told to do. They do what they are primed to do. We do what we are primed to do. We're like Pavlov's dogs. We respond, we are triggered, we are conditioned, we are predictable. If I know what your priming is, what your conditioning is, and you know mine, I can trigger that. I can look at that and trigger. Now, you can see this happen in the media. Just for me, the British media, it's just shockingly bad. But if you imagine a headline that went on the front of the Mirror or the Daily Mail, pick any tabloid you like, and it said, Prime Minister says there's no shortage of toilet rolls. What's going to happen in the shops? I guarantee that if they say there's no shortage of something, people are going to run to the shops and buy all the toilet rolls or the pasta or whatever it is. And this happened in the lockdown. There was never ever a shortage of toilet rolls. There was, because people bought all the stock. It kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. Scarcity is a trigger point. Fear is a trigger point, because that's how we've been conditioned. And if scarcity and fear are trigger points for us, we're not going to start taking any risks. We're not going to start making that leap of faith and open the door, take the risk and go for the opportunity. The people who do take those risks either haven't been primed and conditioned like we have been, or they've figured out how to change that conditioning. So for most of us, I mean, me included, I've had to figure out how to unravel some of that conditioning and learn how to take the risk, recognize the opportunity, and move forwards at the pace that I feel slightly uncomfortable with. And one of the things we've done during the lockdown, those who know us well, I think most of you guys know us well anyway, is we bought a house unseen, bought a renovation cottage pretty much unseen online during lockdown, and we get the keys on Monday and we start this refurb project. Now, that's insane. Most people would say to buy a house almost unseen up on the French-German border it's crazy. Yeah, it is crazy if that's how you think. If you think differently, it's not crazy, it's not risky. Well, it is a bit risky, but it's an opportunity. And so that's the balance. That's how you can unravel. I'm not suggesting or recommending you go and start buying property unseen, but be prepared to take opportunities as they come along. So how can I demonstrate priming to you? I'll give a quick demonstration of priming. And I can't see you guys, so I can't see what your responses are going to be. But anyway, this is a well-known picture. If you've seen it before, please don't put the answer, if you know the answer, into the chat group. But there you go. So there's like a checkerboard with a green cylinder on it. And there are two squares identified on that board. One's got the letter A identified on it, and one's got the letter B identified on it. Which square is the darkest? Which appears to be the darkest color? So you can just type in any answers. You've only got a choice of two. It's 50-50, but which one appears to you to be the darkest square on the block? Amandeep says B is darker. Yeah, A. Okay, great. A. Yeah, most people, I know Amandeep is very, very strange and unusual. Thank you anyway. Most people will say A. the box A, not the letter A, the box A is darker. Some people see it as B as well, which is absolutely fine. It's perception, different priming. Most people see it as the box A is darker than B. But actually, what I've done, I've cut out one of the boxes and just laid it over the two now. So now when you see it, they're both exactly the same. It's the same picture. I'm not messing with it. It's the same picture. You'll see it on the hand. There they are separate, and there they are joined. So separate and joined, and it's clear it's the same color. But our priming tells our brain it looks different. It's something unusual. It's something a bit strange. And the reason for that is because we know intuitively, this is a subconscious thing. Intuitively, we know where the light source is on that image. The light source is up to the right-hand side as you look at the picture. It's the green cylinder is lighter on the right-hand side than the left. Therefore, the shadow's on the left, the light is on the right, and our mind is saying, based on what we know to be true, box B is different color to box A, and it's just not true. But that's because we're primed. And that's when we look at a situation, an opportunity, a problem, and whatever it is, a relationship, we see it differently based on our priming. So I know what you're going to choose on average because that's how you've been primed, but it's the same color. And that's the trick that our mind plays on us. So when we look at business opportunities, personal growth opportunities, whatever it is, our mind is tricking us based on our priming. Now, how this shows up in terms of sort of shock tactics, into the power of this changing the priming, if you like, this is I find this a fascinating story. This is a statue in a town in Enterprise, Alabama, over in the US. And it's a woman holding up what is it's called a Boll Weevil, a bug, a beetle to you and I. And there it is. I should make it a bit bigger for you. So there's the Boll Weevil. And what happened was, Enterprise, Alabama, back in the early 20th century, was very well known for growing cotton. And the Boll Weevil it's a bug, I'll call it a bug, moved into Alabama, moving north, and it attacked the cotton crop. In fact, it wiped out the cotton crop in Enterprise, Alabama, but also other counties and states around as well. And a lot of the farmers were put out of business, completely put out of business, and had to move out and start doing other things. And what happened in Enterprise was they said, well, we've got to lose the cotton crop, completely lose the cotton crop. It's gone forever. And what they did instead, some bright spark had an idea to plant peanuts, because the Boll Weevil doesn't attack the peanut crop. So they planted peanuts instead of cotton. And that within a couple of 3 years, took a little bit of time. But then Enterprise, Alabama became a huge peanut growing, manufacturing and processing area. And it still is now. And it transformed the economy. People came back into the town and they were thankful. They were thankful for the change. They were thankful to the Boll Weevil, so much so they built a statue to it. And this is the sort of thing when you look at the COVID lockdown. What statue will we build to the COVID lockdown? There's always opportunity if we choose to see it. And when there's a big change in your life or your career or relationship or anything like that, remember, it's just an opportunity opening up. You may not have chosen it, but it's an opportunity. What statue will you build in your life and in your career? And in my career, and I was fired once. I thought my life was over. I was fired because I wouldn't sign a set of accounts. They were fraudulent accounts. I refused to sign them. And I said to my boss, being all brave, as you do when you're about 28, well, if you don't like it, fire me. And he did. Called me bluff on it, and he fired me. I thought my life was over. That, again, was a big shift. To my career, had to go and take another direction, a positive direction, and away we go. So I thank him for it. I thought he was a psychopath at the time, but anyway, I thank him for it now. So change is good, but painful. You have to make the change. It can be imposed on you. And the trick is to choose the painful change rather than have it imposed on you. That's how it works. A fabulous book, a book recommendation for you. I've got it on the screen. I've got a copy here as well, is Who Moved My Cheese? Here we go. I recommend it. Not very thick. Fabulous story about a group of mice in a maze whose cheese that they've been living on for years runs out, and they've got to go and find new cheese. And I think in the economy right now, a lot of people have had their cheese moved, and it's very painful, very uncertain. And that's it's not pleasant for a lot of people, but it tends to be the outcome will be okay. So for you, choose to make the change first. So you've got this little discomfort. We know discomfort is a good thing to a degree, but then what is your intention? what can you choose what you want? Well, of course you can choose what you want, providing you make the decisions to move yourself towards it. But working and living on purpose is the key. Knowing what you want. What do you want, not what don't you want? And this lady is a lady called Julia Butterfly Hill. You may have come across her. Back in the 90s, she was an activist for protecting the environment over in California. And in the redwood and sequoia forests over there, they're protected species. They're beautiful, beautiful trees, protected species. You can't take seeds out of the forest. You can't take leaves or branches, and you can't take seeds or anything like that. So they're protected. Anyway, one of the trees, the tallest tree in the forest, which was actually called Luna because it was reaching towards the moon, it was the tallest tree there, was going to be cut down by a local lumber company for some reason. And they put a big sort of cross on it to cut this thing down. Well, Julia Butterfly Hill saw this, and instant response was, how do I protect the tree? How do I protect the tree called Luna? What do I do? So she climbed the tree, got into the branches, and decided to tell people that, well, from a mobile phone, I assume, I'm not going to come down until you guarantee to keep the tree safe and not cut it down. And she wrote a contract to the tree and nailed it on it and said, my feet won't touch the ground until you're safe. And she signed it, and that was the deal she made with the tree. And the press came round, and the local politicians, and anyway, he got a lot of press media coverage. Her friends could get her supplies and clothing and all that sort of thing, get up to her in the tree, and she could get all the waste and stuff down, I suppose. Getting down's easier than getting up in a tree, in my experience. But anyway, so she was in this tree, going to stay there. They're not going to cut the tree down with her in it, even in America. Well, maybe now they would, I don't know, but then they wouldn't. So that was the deal. And then the question is, how long, if that was you, how long would you stay in the tree for? How long are you going to stay up there in the tree, defending your position? Highly uncomfortable, irregular. You haven't been primed for this. It's just an instant response to it. How long do you stay in the tree? And till it's time for tea. Thanks, Kev. Yeah, till it's time for tea. And some people say, well, as long as it takes. And you go, yeah, well, yeah, okay, I get that. But as long as it takes, you say that when we're sat in our safe, warm European homes. This is a tree in the middle of California forest, which gets windy and cold and wet and all sorts of things. How long to stay up there for? Now, she stayed up there for 108 weeks, so over 2 years in a tree. And then they finally agreed to not cut the tree down, and she came down. And she wrote a book called Saving Luna. That's the book. You can Google it and have a look. Julia Butterfly Hill, Saving Luna. And she asks people now, when she does these courses and seminars, I think she's slightly crazy, in a good way, slightly crazy, but I think living in a tree for 2 years would do that for you. But anyway, she's great. She's fabulous. And the question she asks people is, what is your tree? What's your non-negotiable? What do you really want to go for? That's going to mean you have to change and have the uncertainty, the risk and the fear there as well. And it's why we have a tree as part of our logo set, just for a bit of matter of interest. It's not a redwood, it's not a sequoia, but it's a tree all the same. That's part of the reason we have it, because I thought her story was so moving. So make a choice. What's your intention? What's your tree? What is the thing that you want to really go for, that you're prepared to challenge your priming, challenge your conditioning, challenge all the things you've believed to be true, that you'll feel uncomfortable enough to make the change to go and get what you want. So I recommend the book, Saving Luna, Julia Butterfly Hill. And as opposed to, and I got caught out with this, just so you know, there's another lady who's based out of Vegas called Julia Butterfly, who is the world champion pole dancing competitor. And you might get them confused. Anyway, not my fault if you do. Julia Butterfly Hill, climb the tree. Janine Butterfly, I think it is the pole dancer. So there we go. Just in case you made that mistake that I made and get told off by Lynn, who's sat over here still. So, yeah, thank you, Gareth. Yeah, how did I find that out? Yes, purely by accident. I guarantee it was accident, nothing to do with anything else, just a pure accident. Okay, so before we go into the breakout sessions, what I'm going to invite you to consider as a group is, when you're together, what priming would you like to change? If you reflect on yourselves, your background, your training, your knowledge, your expertise, your life and family, it's because the fact you're here on this call means you're already well on the journey, if that makes sense. We're not starting from ground zero here. So just what is it, do you think, that you'd like to challenge or unravel or change or maximize. It might be a very positive thing as well about your mindset, attitudes, and priming that will move you forwards. What fears have you got? What limiting beliefs have you got? Because these limiting beliefs, they call it, this is what they call it in NLP, personal development world, limiting beliefs. What they call them outside of this is excuses, just excuses not to do stuff. I'm not going to go up that ladder because I'm scared of heights. It's a limiting belief. And the same happens with success or money, relationships, and it depends on what priming you have. So any questions? Yes, she definitely would beat me in the pole dancing competition. Thank you, Kevin. Make a note not to invite Kev onto the next one. So I'm going to invite you to go into groups in a second. I'm going to pause the recording before I do that. So pausing is now. Okay, and welcome back from the breakout. So we've talked about priming, and it was really interesting going into the groups and seeing some of the little phrases or simple things that were said to us and you guys as youngsters or on your journey through that really stuck in your minds that affects this thought process, risk-taking, conditioning, prime, whatever we call it. So we have to be real careful what we say to each other, but especially with youngsters. So careful what we say to youngsters. So we've got the priming sorted out now, we think. So how do you effect change? Because a change has got to be uncomfortable. You've got to make a difference, make a change, to make a decision to do something different, and you have to be motivated to make the change. And most people think that they are motivated by goals, motivated by vision, by opportunity, by rewards. And if you think about most organizations, they motivate people by reward, by bonus and commissions or salary or promotion or significance, all this sort of thing. Very much what in NLP terms is called a towards type goal. So you have these towards type goals that pull us towards the end result. Now the challenge is, of course, at least in my experience, most of us, I'd say about 80% of us, in reality, aren't actually motivated by goals. And that sounds very strange doing what I do. So there's a formula for change here, and you can Google it. It's called Gleicher's formula. It's on the web everywhere. And this is Gleicher's formula. And it's D times V times F is greater than R. And I'll run through what it means in a second or two. All the accountants are now rubbing their hands because we have a formula to play with. It's not quite that straightforward. But anyway, so D is for dissatisfaction, your level of dissatisfaction or pain or fear or something like that. It's your need to move away from something. So it could be from loss, from heat, from bankruptcy, from something you don't want in your life or something you don't need in your life, level of dissatisfaction. And the challenge is, I think, for most humans, you've all heard the story about the frog that will, you boil a frog in milk, which I don't recommend you do, but a frog will just not do anything. It'll stay in the milk or the water until it boils to death. You put it in hot water, it jumps straight out. In warm water, it just stays there. Eventually it kills over. Humans are the same. We're the same. We are very, very tolerant of stuff that we shouldn't be tolerant about. So we may have dissatisfaction in our lives, things we're unhappy with or don't like or whatever it is, but it's not bad enough to get us to move. So dissatisfaction is a key driver. We do need vision. We need to know where we're going to go. What do we want? What's our intention? What's our goal? What's our outcome? And also we need to know, what are the first steps? How do we do this? What do we have to do now in order to move ourselves forwards? And the way the formula works is, let's say that you have very, very high dissatisfaction. And you see this, a lot of people, my mother-in-law, I should say, has been in the same house now for about 60 years. Every time we go and see her, when we were allowed to go and see her over in the UK, every time she would always say, I don't like it here. I want to move. I want to go somewhere else. I don't like the village. I don't like the house. I don't like the neighbors. And I would always say, okay, well, that's great. Why don't we get a real estate agent to come round and let's get a valuation on it. Let's go and look at some property and let's get packed and let's move this afternoon. That's my sort of style. And as soon as I said that, she went, no, it's okay. Don't mean it. The dissatisfaction was there, but it wasn't very high. No high dissatisfaction. Plus, she didn't have any vision. No idea where she wanted to go next. Now, if you've got, say, 5 out of 10 dissatisfaction times 0 vision, 5 times 0 is 0. Therefore, the formula doesn't overcome our resistance to change. So to make the formula work, you need to have dissatisfaction, you need to have vision and clarity around first steps. If you don't know how to do it or where to go or what you're going to do first, the calculation is zero as well. It doesn't overcome resistance. So in this formula for change, whilst most people think they need a vision, a goal, a target, and a bonus and a commission, well, they do need that. But imagine 10 out of 10 on vision, but no dissatisfaction. 0 times 10, still 0. Doesn't get them to move. So when you're looking at motivating yourselves or other people, yeah, they need vision and they need reward and they need incentives and they need to know how they're going to do it. But they do need to feel slightly uncomfortable as well, a little bit of dissatisfaction. In my experience, most people are actually more motivated by dissatisfaction than they are vision, because that's the way we're wired. And we were talking in one of the groups during the break there about the COVID lockdown and how in Luxembourg the change was made into people working remotely. All cross-border workers overnight, mid-March, everybody could work at home, work remotely, and work flexibly. The week before that, that was not possible. There was no dissatisfaction. But then as soon as dissatisfaction showed up or stress in the economy, they had to make a change. Guess what? It became possible. Dissatisfaction went right up because we can't let the banks suffer. We can't let the organizations suffer. We can't get people across the border to work. Huge dissatisfaction or fear. Therefore, times vision, we knew how we're going to do it as well. Technology was there, we could do it. Overcame that initial resistance. So you need dissatisfaction, discomfort. You need vision and understanding of first steps. And looking at for you in terms of your business, your family, your growth, whatever it is, having a vision is critical, but you need to have the fear as well. A little bit of fear is good, unfortunately. And imagine most of us, if you're in your own business, you probably know this, that you do your best work when your back's against the wall, when you've got no choice. You've got to come out swinging. You just got to do it. That's dissatisfaction. You've got no choice, no vision, just survival mode. And we need a little bit of survival mode to drive us on. So it's uncomfortable. That's the key. So what sort of pressure do you need? Do you need dissatisfaction? Do you need vision? Do you need instructions? Do you need guidance? And there's an interesting model around the type of pressure that motivates and inspires us. And it's based on these 4 key principles. One is external pressure or internal pressure, away from and towards goals. So if I'm an externally motivated person, I look for external rewards, external validation. I want prizes, I want rewards and medals and accolades and recognition. That's an external frame of reference. If I'm an internally referenced person, I just know I do a good job. I don't need a reward. I don't need a certificate or a medal. It's a feeling. It's an internal feeling. I just get it. I know it's an internal, intuitive. I know I'm good. Therefore, I'm happy. External frame of reference, and internal frame of reference. Then we have a towards type goal, which is the V, the vision, towards an end, towards a result, towards an opportunity. And we have away from the heat, away from the pain. Most people know what they don't want in life and not what they do want, for example. So most people are actually away from motivated, in my experience. So where do you fit on that spectrum? Are you externally driven or internally driven? Are you towards motivated or externally motivated? So for me, I am externally motivated. I like badges and buttons, and I'm on the disc profile. At least we'll know all about this. I'm a high I. I value feedback. If it's good, if it's not good feedback, I don't want it. So I value good feedback, not negative feedback. I don't want that. Anyway, external feedback, external frame of reference, and I'm an away from person. I do have goals and visions and targets and objectives. I know exactly what I want and where I'm going. Those inspire me. But what motivates me is the heat. I need a kick. I need a push. I need threat behind me. So I do my best work when there's a bit of heat in there as well. So for me, I appear on the top left-hand quadrant. So for me to choose my goals and targets is to have a vision, but then it's to do something to create the heat. So buy a house online without seeing it. That's a huge amount of heat. That's just the scariest thing in the world to do for some people, a bit for me as well. But I know that is it. I put my back against the wall. We've got to do it now. We paid the money. We did the transfer. I think it was yesterday. The money's gone out of the account and we get the keys on Monday. So I've got no choice now but to get the house, and we're going to sort it. If I thought about it, even though it's a fabulous goal, lovely location, fabulous garden, great potential, and if I didn't have the heat, I'd go, yeah, I'm not ready yet. I'd have all these excuses and limiting beliefs. So for you, when you choose your mode of goal setting and operating, you can check yourself, are you external, internal, towards and away? So for example, if you find you're externally referenced, you want feedback from other people and accolades and that sort of thing, and towards reference, well, pick a big shiny goal, publish it and tell other people about it. And this is what I'm going to be doing this in 12 months' time. Let other people know what you're doing. They'll hold you accountable to it. Externally referenced, towards type. So choose the goal, choose the framework that fits your modality. It may well be that you're away from referenced, actually. And that's another subject to a certain extent. But if you're externally referenced, you need to apply heat to yourself as well. You need threat and you need consequence. And some of the people I'm working with have to give me little daily updates on things they're up to. And if they don't do the daily update, there's a consequence. So guess what they do? Daily updates. All those sort of things, a little bit of gentle positive heat can actually move you quicker than just a vision or a goal. So understand your modality first. And then how do you know whether you're under the right sort of pressure or the wrong sort of pressure? So we find out by the pressure response. Now, this is something you can gauge for yourselves. On the horizontal axis, we've got stress. On the vertical axis, we've got performance. And that bell curve is how performance works. So we imagine zero stress, zero performance, bottom left-hand side. As stress increases, performance climbs up this curve, climbs up the curve, and then eventually, when stress is too high or gets too extreme, you go over the top of the peak and you start to slide down the other side again. Now, an optimum performance, we're going to be about here. So we're under a bit of stress. Our performance is getting towards, what, 2/3 way up the curve. That's comfortable. Now, for that person, if I apply some pressure to them, increase deadline, bit more heat, increase the pace, raise the expectations, put a bit of pressure on, raise the target, whatever it is, I put some heat onto that person, increase the stress, their performance will increase because they go up the slope a little bit, up the slope, and they might not be sustainable, but for short term, they can do a sprint and then they'll come back down again. Now, the challenge is, of course, that on the other side of the curve over here, we've got the same level of performance. That line is the same level of performance, different side of the stress curve. And this person on the right-hand side of the curve, same performance. If I put more stress onto that person, more deadlines, more pressure, more whatever it is, they're going to crash and burn. They're going to go, boom, their performance is going to drop like a stone. So the way to do this for yourselves is figure out where you are. Where are you on this curve? If you're on the left-hand side and you apply some heat to yourself and a positivity of a goal and all this sort of thing, and it inspires and motivates you to do more and the productivity increases, great. If you're on the right-hand side, and through this COVID regime, a lot of people are on this right-hand side, a lot of stress out there at the moment. If you put pressure on yourself and you start to crumble, productivity goes down, you start thinking about things too much, procrastination sets in, you're not sleeping well, all this sort of thing. You've got to de-stress. Get back over to the side of that curve quick. And that means, plan your time better, go have a weekend away, do something, but you've got to get the pressure under control. Achievement is not about negative pressure, it's positive pressure. So you figure out your goal structure and then you figure out your pressure response and you just make sure you're not going to crash and burn. What should happen is you're on the left-hand side, you apply some heat, bit of away from to increase the pace, and your productivity performance increases. That's how you know. And I see that doing what I do. And my job is to recognize that and either de-stress somebody, maybe tell them to go and have a day off, have a day off, leave your phone at home, clear off, don't call the office, go and get yourself back over the curve. And when they're back, they've reset, then we can climb again. Now off we go. Just be careful. Make sure you're on the right side of that curve. It's an interesting one. I mean, for you guys, but also maybe for people in your team or your clients or customers as well. Watch out for this crash and burn. It's a big problem out there. So what we need to do is by setting a goal and objective as having something to look forward to with the heat, but a vision, is setting what is called your reticular activating system, your RAS. It's like a compass for your brain. So what it means is that we have a part of our brain, which is the reptilian part of the brain, that when we look at something, we focus on it, we tend to go after it. It's a hunter-killer in us. So we choose something, we look for it, we recognize it, we go for it. What it also means is that we filter out everything else. Now you can do this by, if I said to you, imagine this, look at there's a car park full of cars, and I said to you, count the red cars in that car park. You count the red cars. You go, there's 7 red cars. Great. How many blue ones were there? You've got no idea. You've got no idea how many blue ones are in that car park because you weren't focused on it. And the mind focuses on what we tell it, and it deletes everything else. So if we want to be focused on a goal or a vision or a target or an objective, we've got to know what it is. We've got to set our reticular activating system towards it, because what you choose to focus on will become manifest to you. Now, it doesn't mean, this is in my experience, if I want to manifest €1 million, £1 million, I don't just sit and go visualize £1 million or €1 million and it just magically appears. What happens, because I set my RAS towards that, what will happen is my subconscious will recognize opportunities to allow me to move towards that goal. But it's not a conscious thing. This is the unusual part of it. It's not conscious, it's unconscious. So how did I arrive in France? How did you guys arrive where you are? Look at your life, your career, your jobs, and you can pretty much guarantee when you look back in time, it wasn't all completely planned and structured. It was opportunities appeared, not sure where from, you went left, you went right, you went up and you went down and you arrived here. That's how it goes. But you need to know where you're going, and what your subconscious does, it filters out all the other stuff, and then it shows you opportunities. The phone will ring, the door will open in that warehouse with the torch. You'll recognize the door as being an opportunity because you know where you want to go, and you'll open it and away you go. You'll go through it. So setting the RAS is a very powerful driver. And you can measure this. Anybody's bought a new car, for example, and one of my clients, he wanted to buy a Ferrari 430 back in the UK years ago, and he saved up for the car. We got the car, went to the garage with him, got in this Ferrari, and he was like a kid with a new toy. It was just beautiful, beautiful car. Got in it, jumped in, drove off out of the car park, out of the garage, going back towards his house. And what did he start to see lots of? Are the Ferraris. They're everywhere when you look for them, when you tuned into them. And you'll do whatever car you buy. If you bought a Fiat or a BM or an Audi, whatever it is, I guarantee you start seeing lots of them all over the place. You just start to recognize them. And it's just the way we're tuned. We recognize things that we're tuned into. So we tune into the objective, and the subconscious then deletes other things and shows us things we can consider as opportunities. That's how it works. So we've got to choose and focus on the right thing. Now, what happens is, I mean, is there anybody, just type into the chat here, any motorcyclists, any bikers on here? I know Dirk is. Anybody else ride a motorbike? Any bikers on here? Just put a yes if you are. No. No. Oh, thanks. Okay, I know Dirk is. If Dirk's still on this, we haven't lost Dirk. Have we lost Dirk? No, we haven't. No, he's still here, isn't he? Anyway, Dirk is. Anyway, I bought a motorbike over in the US. I wanted to buy a bike. Only one bike you can buy in America, as Dennis will probably tell us. It's a Harley Davidson. Bought a Harley Davidson and had to get lessons and that sort of thing. Anyway, they took us into a car park to learn how to ride this bike. And the first lesson the guy told me was this, that I'm going to explain to you now. So imagine I'm on my bike heading down the road, and I'm coming to a reasonably sharp, long, fast curve. And the question is, what do I look at? What do I look at? When I'm going into that bend, that curve, what do I look at? Now, on the apex of that curve is a tree. Now I'm going into that bend. If I look at that tree, Dirk, thank you, excellent, good. If I look at that tree, what happens? If I'm on a motorbike, when you look at a tree or look at an object, look at anything, what happens, do you think? Well, on a bike, because, and I'll explain this in a little bit more detail, same in life and in business, what you focus on, you hit. Now, if you're on a motorbike and you're going around a bend and you glance over at a tree or an obstacle, your physiology changes. It just does. It changes. You are magnetically drawn towards it, and you will hit the tree. That's why most bikers are injured or killed coming off a bend. No other cars involved, no bikes involved. They just get too fast or they lose concentration and off they go. There's loads of videos of this on YouTube, bikers going off bends and this sort of thing. They're looking at the wrong thing. They should be looking at the exit. And I'd love to get There you go. Good, great point. Look at the doors between the trees. There you go. Don't look at the trees. If you're a skier, same thing applies. What you don't look at when you're skiing through trees is don't look at the trees, because you're going to hit it. You just do. You're magnetically drawn towards it. Same on a motorbike. So you've got to have a focus and delete other things as well. Distractions, other opportunities, or wherever it is, you delete them, because that's where your focus has to lie. So don't look at the tree. You focus on the exit, on the case of a bike. You focus on the target. And then what you focus on becomes manifest to you. Now, the part of this where it gets a little bit more sort of, I suppose, confusing, if you like, or tricky, is what I call contrary thinking. Yes, Kevin, you will, if you do that, be focused on winding your wife up, poor Sue, then you will get hit. So, and I will as well if I'm not very careful, because my boss is in the room as well. So, contrary thinking. Now, this is where you start to have to trust your reticular activating system, your intuition, your instincts, your subconscious, and it will guide you. And I don't know exactly how this works, okay? But what I know what doesn't work, which is a detailed plan and a structure, because we've got no idea what that looks like. We've got to trust ourselves. And when we set our focus, our plan, our intention, we then allow ourselves to look for and say yes to opportunities. So this is how contrary thinking works. Now, if you ride a push bike, which I think most of us ride bikes anyway, or can do. Now, if I want to turn to the right, I push my left wrist forwards and I go around to the right. That's it. So you do that. I go around to the right. That's how logically, that's what happens. If I want to go around to the left, I push my right round, I push round to the left, and the bike goes around to the left. Make sense? That's what logically happens. Now, Dirk will know this, I think, anyway, I hope he does. I found this to be the most confusing thing that I was taught when I was learning to ride a motorbike. What the guy said is when you're riding a motorbike above around about 50k per hour, 30 miles an hour, 50k per hour, you don't turn the wheel the way the bike's going to go. And I said, well, what do you do? They said, you do the opposite. You push the opposite. And in the classroom, it didn't make sense. It was like, that's insane. If I'm riding a motorbike, I want to turn right. I want to do that. I'm going to actually do that. How does that work? It just does not compute. It's contrary to intuition, contrary to logic. And what actually happens on a bike, and Dirk can hopefully back me up. James, thank you. No worries. I'll see you real soon. And I'll speak to you again soon. James is jumping off. So thank you. Good to see you. What happens is, if I want to turn right, this is only of a certain speed on a motorbike. Don't do this on a push bike. You're going to break your neck. What happens, if I want to turn right, I'm going to push there. And what happens is I push opposite and the bike leans and goes around the bend. It just does. Now, when you're on a motorbike, it feels right. It's intuitively feels right. It's an instinctive thing. You don't push the other way. You don't fight it. You push and it just feels, you don't think about it. You just push and around you go. I hope Dirk's going to back me up on this. But anyway, it is tied to the law of precession, which is consequences at right angles, all this sort of thing. But you've got to trust your intuition because it feels right. When you see this door in the warehouse with your torch and you know what you want to do, it will feel right. Logically, it won't work. Logically, for us to go and move to the USA, to move to Las Vegas was ridiculous. Our goal was to move to France, for goodness sake. Why would I go to Las Vegas? It was crazy. But actually, going to Vegas definitely got us here to France. It was a straight line jump. Would we be here now if we hadn't gone to the US? I actually doubt it. I doubt it. So we had to push left to go right. We had to do something that was counterintuitive. Trust your instinct. And this is where our priming, because we're logical thinkers, our priming trips us up. We want structure, we want guidelines and parameters and systems and procedures, and it doesn't work that way. This is why our priming trips us up. So we want to be counterintuitive and just trust. So that's now in terms of success mindset, is when we're primed for certain things, we need to understand the rules of the game that go with it. Now, if I speak to somebody that wants to start their own business, or they want to do something amazing or whatever it is. And I'll just say to them, well, great, yeah, go and do it. They normally come back with a set of excuses or reasons, as they call it. And it's all based on the mindset. So we need to have a list of principles that we can use as a guideline for ourselves and for myself and for you guys as well, that enables all these other things to sort of join up. So number one is we need to be goal oriented. We do need to have heat and pressure, but we need to know where we're going as well. What's the goal? What's the outcome? It needs to be a big goal as well, something exciting. Excitement and fear are the same emotion. So if you set a big goal, it should excite you and it should scare you. It's the same thing. So goal oriented. Be responsible or take responsibility for your outcomes, your life, your results, your people, your environment. It's all a reflection of you. If you don't like what you're getting, well, guess why? It's because of you. Your life reflects you. Life is a mirror. So take responsibility for it. Be energetic. Get up early, go to bed late, work hard, do stuff, get on with it. Very few successful people are getting up at 11 o'clock and going on the Xbox for 3 hours and then doing half an hour in the afternoon. It doesn't work that way. Energetic, it's an energy thing, energy transfer. So be energetic, be enthusiastic. You've got to have a passion for what you do, because when it gets tough, you're going to want to quit. And you're going to get into these dark places and you're going to think, I can go and drive a van for Tesco's or whatever it is. Keep the dream alive and keep that enthusiasm. Hang around with other people that are like-minded like you. So I mean, on the call today, there's lots of people that are very similar. So I'm trying to read and talk at the same time. It's not working. Trust is the answer. Yes, excellent. Good, thanks, Dirk. You've got to have like-minded people around you. And regular feedback that I get, and you'll see this yourselves, I hope, is that when people join these groups, the workshops, they go, what a great bunch. They're all the same. They're all like me. They're all different, but in a good way. They're all the same sort of people. Well, yeah, they are, because they're all the same. They're all the same. They're all the same. So enthusiasm is a key one, and nurturing as well. Take people with you. Learn, nurture yourself, look after yourself. You're your own product. So you've got to be green. You've got to go green to be successful. And this is operating above the line, the green line, above the line. Below the line, they have reasons, excuses. They have evidence to support that. Now, if I say to somebody, I did this in an airport once, I was sat chatting, which is unusual enough in an airport, and the guy said to me, what do you do? I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm training and coaching and traveling all over the place. And he said, I want to do what you do. I said, that's great. I said, well, give me your phone. And so he gave me his phone. He said, what's your boss's name? And I'll text her your resignation right now. He went, no, not now. I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready. I've got a pension to pay. I've got credit cards. I've got a mortgage. I've got kids. It'll be like a 15, 20-year plan. And he had reasons for not doing it and lots of evidence as well. He knew why he shouldn't be doing it, because it was dangerous. He'd been told not to. He had other friends who'd done the same sort of thing. They have evidence why they shouldn't do things. So that's what, and you can tell these people, move away from these people. And they have doubt as well. That won't work. That won't work in my business. Number of people that say to me, not on the call, no, none of you guys, we have a conversation with people and you go, how about this? Consider this. And they say, yeah, but that won't work in my business. My business is special. My business is unique and it won't work. You go, well, yeah, then it won't, then will it? It won't. If you don't think it will, I guarantee it won't. So we've got to have the success mindset, which is avoid, do not enter the red zone. Reasons, evidence, and doubt, and we've got to operate here. That's where the green light comes on. Goal, responsibility, energetic, enthusiastic, and nurturing. And it spells green as well. How cool is that? And red spells red. Just a genius at work, a genius at work. But these are the principles. These are the principles of success and achievement. Avoid the red zone, obviously stay in the green zone, and for you and for your team as well. And one of the things to consider, the book recommendation, and I've got it here for you as well, is this one, which I think, there you can see that one, Dr. Zeus. It's a kiddie's book, Oh, the Places You'll Go. And he talks about, and I've got a copy of the page here for you, I think, here we go, is called The Waiting Place. And I'm not going to read it to you, but he says halfway through the book that people are not going anywhere. They're waiting for the right time, waiting for the right opportunity. They're waiting for things to happen, waiting for things to come to them. Of course, it never does, because they're thinking logically. Now, if you are open to the possibility of things happening and you're happy to open that door in the dark warehouse and take the risk, you're not sat in the waiting room. You're there prepared to be open and movement. Now, when you do these sort of things, when you take the opportunity of moving or taking the risk, can it go wrong? Yeah, of course it can go wrong. Yeah, of course it can. That's the beauty of it. It can go wrong, but you're going to be okay anyway. Everybody, I think, looking on people on the call now, knowing you as I do, most of you are quite well, you've done a lot of this anyway. It's just how do you bring it into the next level for yourselves is where, how do we stop waiting around for stuff? How do we increase the pace? Because I think if COVID's taught us anything, is that the future is unpredictable. I saw a very clever post on, not clever, but a post on LinkedIn, and somebody said, I think it was, who in 2015 got their 5-year goal right? And we're going to be in five years' time. Nobody had any clue we were going to be here doing this. So the future is unpredictable. Don't confuse certainty with future, because the future is uncertain. You may as well take the risk of it being amazing as standing still and doing nothing. So don't sit in the waiting place. It's where dead people go, basically. Don't go in the waiting place. Get out and get amongst it, and have the goals and the visions and the dreams. So I didn't know I could talk so much. Any questions before we go out into the next breakout session? And the breakout session, next one, is what pressure do you need applied to you? Is it towards goals, or is it heat? Do you need consequences? Do you need accountability? Do you need pressure? You need both. Remember, D times V, you need both. What's the biggest one for you? Do you need big D? Do you need big V? You can't have zero on either of them. Big vision, no pressure, D times V, 0 times 10 is still 0. Huge dissatisfaction without vision, 10 times 0, still 0, doesn't overcome the resistance. And I find, just my observation, not for you guys particularly, but a lot of people in life, they spend their whole life in high dissatisfaction. They live there, they tolerate it, they're frogs in milk. What they don't have is vision. They never actually figure out what they do want. They're so happy and content, moaning and bitching and complaining about what they don't want. They never figure out what they do want. So big dissatisfaction, no vision, and no chance of first steps. Now, that doesn't apply to you guys, but you may see these people around. These ones you don't want to allow into your network. I guarantee it. These are the mood hoovers who suck the life out of you. They're not good to be around. So what pressure do you need to change? And any questions before I'm going to put you back into breakout groups, and we've got another sort of about 15, maybe 20 minutes on this one. I'll jump in and say hello. Any questions, or are you happy to go into the breakout groups, or unhappy to go into the breakout groups? Either way, you're going into the breakout groups. Doesn't matter. It's a bit of dissatisfaction for you. It's a good thing. Okay, so I'm going to pause recording and pause recording. Okay, so welcome back into the room, and if you have any questions, you can welcome to type them into the box. If not, we can send them over by email. What I'll do is I'll download this video, so I'll get the video recorded. It only shows me, you're quite safe, and the slides and the notes. Now for next week, just so I'm clear for myself on timing, it's Thursday in the UK, 1 o'clock till 3 o'clock, and in Luxembourg, 2 o'clock till 4 o'clock. Same time, same channel. I'll send the invite out. You'll get all the emails. You get the invitation on LinkedIn as well. And there'll be some notes, bit of preparation work to do for next week's session as well. Did a little bit of homework, a bit of fun. I'll be speaking with you, I think everybody pretty much during the week. Keep me posted. Have a fabulous weekend. I know it's only Thursday, but it's the weekend. We're collecting the keys to the house on Monday, so you'll see some updates on that one anyway as we go along. And of course, get ready for when we're allowed. Come down and have a barbecue at our place in the middle of nowhere in France. So thank you for being on the call. I hope it's been of value and of interest, and you've met some cool people, learned a few tips and tricks. I'll send the notes across later on this evening when it's all downloaded. In the meantime, keep me posted, and I look forward to updates, and I'll see you all soon. So take care, and bye for now.